Hi, I'm Junior Ranger Leif Silva, and today I'll be taking you on an epic adventure underneath the Black Hills of South Dakota, with stops to Wind Cave National Park and Jewel Cave National Monument. In my last episode, I crossed over the Nebraska border to the Black Hills of South Dakota. I explored the Hell Canyon district and drove the 3 scenic roads of Custer State Park: Needles Highway, Iron Mountain Road, and the Wildlife Loop. I cooled off with a dip in several of the area's natural springs and freshwater lakes, including Cascade Falls, Evans Plunge, and Sylvan Lake. I became a paleontologist for the day at the Mammoth site, and I completed 2 more junior rangers, one at Mount Rushmore National Memorial, and the other was the junior naturalist at Custer State Park, bringing the total for my trip so far to 16. Millions of years ago, this area was underneath a giant inland ocean, and fragments of the seashells from this ocean create a layer of limestone and gypsum rock. After that, the Black Hills mountain range was formed in a series of geological uplifts that pushed 2-billion-year-old rocks from the Earth's core through these layers. As rock was pushed upward through the limestone layers, and additional volcanic activities then layered more rock on top to create the unique geography above the surface, water entering through the cracks in the limestone created a massive series of caves and caverns beneath the surface. There are several places in the Black Hills where you can explore these massive caves and caverns. Just north of the town of Hot Springs is Wind Cave National Park. Portions of Wind Cave are over 300 million years old, making it one of the oldest caves in the world. For many centuries, the Plains Indians who lived in the area told stories of a hole that blows wind. The first documented entrance by local miners into the cave occurred in 1881, and a 3-decade-long legal battle over claims and mining rights ensued until in 1903, President Roosevelt signed a legislation that made Wind Cave into a national park. There are many things that make Wind Cave a unique and extraordinary national park. Wind Cave is the first cave in the world to become a national park. It also employed the first female national park ranger, Esther Cleveland Brazel, in 1914. Lastly, Wind Cave has the largest amount of a rare honeycomb-shaped cave formation known as boxwork. To complete the junior ranger at Wind Cave, I had to participate in a ranger-led cave tour in addition to filling out the activity booklet. My mom and I chose the natural entrance tour, which begins at a small hole that is the cave's only natural opening and gives the cave its name. A large wind created by differences in barometric pressure inside and outside the cave blows out of this hole and creates a loud whistling noise. Today, 140 miles of the cave have been mapped out, and teenager Alvin McDonough is credited with much of that work. His family moved to Wind Cave from Iowa in the early 1890s, and he spent many hours over the years with a candle and a ball of string exploring and mapping the passageways. Wind Cave is said to be 2 parks in one, because above the massive caves lies a sprawling intact island of prairie land and wildlife. Wind Cave has over 30 miles of hiking trails and Elk Mountain Campground, a large campground where ponderosa pine forests meets the prairie in the park. We camped in Elk Mountain for 3 nights. Just outside of the campground is a large prairie dog town on the edge of the Bison Flat, a popular area for Wind Cave's herd of bison to hang out. They especially love hanging out on the road and causing bison traffic jams, So if you are traveling through the park along Highway 385, leave yourself some extra time to travel through this area. The bison herd at Wind Cave is one of only 4 free-roaming and genetically pure herds remaining in North America. Today, the herd has between 250 and 400 bison. But in the early 1900s, the millions of bison that roamed the Great Plains had been completely eliminated from this area from overhunting. In 1913, 14 bison were donated from the New York Zoological Society, and in 1916, 6 more were brought in from Yellowstone in an effort to return bison to the Great Plains. All of the bison at Wind Cave today are descendants from these 20. Because the Wind Cave herd has a high level of genetic diversity compared to the other federally maintained bison herds, it is really important that they continue to receive lots of support. To do our part, my mom became a member of the Black Hills Parks and Forests Association, and I adopted a Wind Cave bison named Mr. Fluffy. Though only a short 40-minute drive away, Jewel Cave National Monument offers a completely different cave exploration experience. Declared a national monument in 1908, Jewel Cave gets its name from the sparkling calcite crystals that line its many caverns. Over 210 miles of Jewel Cave have been mapped to date, but that represents only 5% of its total expanse, making Jewel Cave the 3rd longest cave in the world. To complete the Jewel Cave Junior Ranger, I had to participate in 2 ranger-led activities in addition to completing the activity booklet. For my 2 activities, I watched a movie on the history of Jewel Cave and took the historic lantern tour with Ranger Maggie. The tour begins at the historic ranger cabin built in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps. Here in the cabin, Ranger Maggie told us about the history of Jewel Cave and gave us kerosene lanterns to carry on the tour. She was even dressed in the traditional ranger uniform used in the 1930s, which she pointed out was not meant to properly fit women because there were essentially no female rangers at the time. After hiking down a stone staircase, also built by the CCC, to the original entrance of the cave, we spent the next hour and a half exploring the narrow cave passages with only the light from our lanterns to show us the way. The number of people who can do the historic lantern tour each day is very limited, and the tour sells out quickly. Even though we arrived a half an hour before ticket sales began the first day we were in the Black Hills, the tickets sold out before we made it to the beginning of the line. The next day we arrived before 6 a.m., so that we were guaranteed to get a spot on the tour. The historic lantern tour was definitely a highlight of my time in the Black Hills, and the early morning wake-up was well worth it. Jewel Cave is home to over 1,400 bats representing 9 different species. While Wind Cave is famous for its genetically pure bison herd, Jewel Cave boasts the world's largest known hibernating colony of Townsend's big-eared bats. Most of these bats hibernate within 1,000 feet of Jewel Cave's historic entrance, where we began our tour. Ironically, though she knows their importance to the ecosystem, Ranger Maggie is terrified of bats. Despite her fears, she bravely leads tours through the historic entrance several times a day. After I completed my junior ranger and got sworn in by Ranger Grace at the visitor center, I adopted a bat through the Black Hills Parks and Forests Association and named her Maggie to honor Ranger Maggie's bravery in facing her fears. The National Park Service managed lands contain over 4,700 caves, including 4 that extend over 135 miles, like Wind Cave and Jewel Cave. The Junior Cave Scientist is a special junior ranger that can be completed at any of these sites for those who are interested in learning more about our country's extensive cave systems. When Ranger Lucy swore me in at Wind Cave National Park, she also awarded me with the Junior Cave Scientist badge. I completed 3 more junior rangers by going deep underground into the networks of caves just beneath the Black Hills, bringing my trip total to 19. In my next episode, I'll explore the prairies and massive South Dakota Badlands just outside of the Black Hills, with stops to Buffalo Gap National Grasslands, Minuteman Missile National Historic Site, and Badlands National Park. And who knows, maybe I'll see you out there.